So what kind of training, research, or stunt work did you have to use to prepare for the role of Riker and the Handler?
So the type of train. So when Mike hit me up about the handler, I had never even thrown a punch. I don't have any fight training, and I said, "Listen, you want this fighter from like the '80s, like an Arnold or something like that, or a Jean Claude Van Damme?" I was like, "That's just not me." I was like, um, I'm gonna have to, we're gonna have to work something out here, how to teach me how to fight. And he said, "Don't worry about it. I got this guy. His name is Matt Ordems. He's a professional Muay Thai fighter, and we have 30 days, and he's gonna work with you every day." I said, "Okay, here we go."
Nice. That's awesome. So was that
Yeah,
like a really like hard process to get used to?
yeah. It's a mindset to be a fighter. I'm a very chill dude, not a fighter, more of a lover for sure. And so that mindset when you put your gloves on and like you could get hurt and like you have to want to hurt people, it was different for me. But at first anything's uncomfortable at first, and then a week into training every day, I was like, okay, this is who Riker is, and this is it started developing on the fighting mentality of it.
Hmm. Yeah, I bet after a while you're just like, okay, I'm this person for this period of time. Like I can imagine after like all that fighting and all the repetitive kind of scenes, like you might have gotten used to it.
You just get used to it like anything, right? And you just that's who I am. I get hit, I throw hits, and I'm a badass dude. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So yeah, speaking of that, the film had many dark themes, including death, betrayal, loss of loved ones, and imminent danger. So how do you get into the mindset like beforehand to prepare to play Riker, who struggles with these themes during the film?
Oh, that's tough. That's a good question. I think I don't use substitution in my acting methods. So I don't like, oh, when I don't really have any tragedy in my life, thankfully. But people use, oh, my grandfather died, and I'm going to use that as a substitution for my wife being killed in this or whatever it was. So for me, it was just the idea that if you could love something so much and have it taken from you, how would you feel? And there's probably no worse pain that you can compare that to. So I made that as a physical pain, as well as the furthest emotional pain that I can take it, and then turn that in together into to revenge, as like that's the motivating factor in the story.
Yeah, interesting that you say that because I could really see that like in your face and in your movements and like see how like intense the situation was for you. So like very well played out and yeah, it made the movie even more thrilling for me.
Thank you, thank you.
Yeah. So as we follow Riker throughout the film and watch these tough issues, do you find yourself resonating with anything he's gone through at all? I know you said you haven't been through much tragedy, if any.
I mean, it's tough because that's such an extreme story. I'm not ex-military. Like I don't have any tragedy like that. I'm not even really a fighter. So a lot of it was just created on set and for the character coming up to it. But the only thing that does resonate with me is I guess it's kind of on the surface, but the entertainment value of it is like when, and it goes back to like when I was a kid with my father, where we'd sit on the couch on Sunday morning and watch like Predator or Bloodsport or something like that. And like just watching him being so excited when like Van Damme kicked this guy in the face and knocked him out. And that came back to me doing this as I was a sense of if I could reach a father and son watching this movie on a Sunday, then I felt like I accomplished my job. So that was part of it. In my head the whole time was every choice I would make. I wanted to make sure that if a dad and son or dad and daughter were watching on Sunday morning The Handler, would it be a high five moment, or would the kid look at his parent and be like, wow, my dad's really enjoying this, or my mom is really enjoying this. So that was always in my head, like, what would they high five and clap for this moment right here?
Mhm. Wow, yeah, that's really inspiring. I wouldn't have thought of that, but that's a really good motivation to like, make your character as best as possible for the people watching.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay, so do you think there are any previous acting roles that prepared you for the role of Riker and the Handler?
Mm, I think every role that you take, you kind of you keep a little piece with you. Um, I don't think there's anything specific that I went back and was like, oh, that time I did this, I could use it here. Um, yeah, nothing specific like that. But every role that I do, um, I have I have created a toolbox that is there when I need it for emotion or sadness or anger. I'll be like, oh well, that was really pissed in this scene in this movie, and people really enjoyed that. I was like, maybe I can kind of shape it for this moment here too. And so I've done that before.
Hmm. Yeah, interesting that you say you have a toolkit, like sort of like with you at all times. Because I spoke to a director who also has a toolkit like behind him to like sort of pull anything out, like in any situation. And what I asked this director was like, how do you do things like on the fly kind of thing? So, did you have like any moments like that where you kind of went like off script, or you suggested to Michael like, maybe we should do the scene this way. I think it might work better.
Yeah, this script was very small. Like even though it's an 80-minute movie, the actual scriptural side of it is probably only 20 or 30 pages.
Mhm.
So all of the fighting and all the motion and all of the end parts of each battle was 100% improv. So it's kind of one of those things where Mike kind of just was hands free on this. To be honest with you, even during the stuff that he wrote, he made sure the shot was where he wanted it, and that we obviously knew our lines enough, but he pretty much just he was honestly like a kid in a candy store watching this film. He just sat back and enjoyed everything we were doing. Put a lot of like a lot of the film in our hands as actors as well as our cinematographer. And so yeah, he just sat back and let us play, and that was kind of fun. That was an enjoyable, stress-free situation on set because of that. So yeah, I mean, there was just a lot of improv and a lot of ideas on the fly, and there have been times where he'd be like, "Oh, can you say a line like this?" I think, and then I would, and then I'd be mad that I said it his way because I'm like Riker mindset, and I'd yell at him, and then and then I'd do it my way, and that was like the most of it.
Hmm. I think improv is one of the best parts of like acting in general. And I don't act myself, but I enjoy seeing it like on the other end because you can kind of like, like build up like this, like I guess tension between characters if there is, and then just say something that you think that you should say. And like sometimes
Yeah.
it really works. Most of the time, in my experience, it really works.
Yeah, I mean, you also have times where it doesn't work at all and it ends up in the editing floor, but that's the magic of editing. Like that's how important it is that you can uh, take chances and make mistakes and not worry about the overall film because of it.
Mhm. Right. Yeah. So, in what ways did director Michael Matteo Rossi inspire you to push you to supplement your character throughout the film, including Wrecker's motivations, flaws, failures, and relationships to the characters around him? And you spoke about this like a little bit, but can you elaborate a little more?
Yeah, sure. When someone takes a chance on you in anything, especially in a lead role, you want to make sure they know they didn't make the wrong choice. Especially in a movie like this, where I'm not a jacked, dude. I'm not that typical Arnold Sylvester Stallone look in the film either. So I wanted to make sure that I made up for that in heart and dedication and just full on being committed in every second of the day, whether the camera's on or not, to the character for Mike. Yeah, and like I said, he was very hands off on set. He allowed us to play and fight, and pretty much was on his phone recording it like a little kid the entire time. He really enjoyed it on set. It was cool.
Hmm. Yeah, I've been following him for a few months, like on social media, and he's always like really excited about working on new scripts and like looking
Yeah.
back on previous films and things. So like, it's nice when you have someone who's like so excited and you have like that energy around you to kind of keep going and finish the project.
Yeah, you need that, especially. on a film like this, we shot it for only like 7 days straight, and we were doing multiple fights a day. So it was a tired. I was very tired on set. Everybody else was as well. So you needed that lighthearted motivation from the top, from that director entirely. Like if he was tired and over it too, there's no way we would have finished the film.
Hmm. Yeah, I'm curious, where did you shoot the film? Was it in California?
Hmm. We he has a neighbor actually who owns that house we shot it in, and some situation came about where Mike had it for a week, and then and that's what led to the handler is that they hit him up and said, hey, we have this house you could use for a week before we remodel it or something, and then Mike was like, ooh. Let's do a movie where the guy is stuck in the house and he has to fight his way out of it, and then that's kind of how the handler started.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
did like the house too, like the big driveway, and like it was very nice.
Yeah, it's nice. Yeah, it's a nice house.
Yeah, nice. Well, so throughout the film, we hear from multiple people in Riker's life talk about his experience at war. So it seems he's motivated to continue fighting for his life even after serving in the war. So can you tell me about how staying in the war mindset is helping Riker long term, like to reach his goal of protecting the bag that he has?
Yeah, I mean, you can look at it both ways as the fact that like because he can't get out of the war, it's costed him his family and his life and his everything. It's because of that. So that's the negative side of that. But obviously the other side of that in the film is it has led him to be almost indestructible. It has led him to continue to fight. It has motivated him to protect himself and kill a lot of bad guys.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the catch 22. It's the curse. It's the idea that he's lost everything because of it. But since he has lost everything, it's his protection, his shield to continue to survive.
Great. So, not sure if this would be, it would kind of like get in the way of the plot or anything, but is it safe to say there was nothing in the bag?
No, there's definitely something in the bag.
Okay.
Um, Mike Mike wanted a Pulp Fiction moment, with the briefcase that opens and we never see what's in it. So that's what the bag represents. But we could you could talk about what's in the bag forever, right? Like my idea of what was in the bag, if you want to know, is I put my wife's and my son's remaining like belongings in that bag, and so that was the last things that I had of theirs, and that's why I was protecting it so much.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Got it. Because when you said, like he's in this war mindset, he has to protect the bag, I was like, well, maybe there's nothing in the bag. But also, I was surprised that Vinny didn't know it was in the bag either. He was like, just give me what you have in the bag. I just want what's in the bag just because.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Not the strongest motivating factor, but yeah, I didn't think Mike. I don't think Mike cared. I think he just wanted that idea of like the viewer to be like, what's in the bag, and create their own story on what it could be.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Do you think that Riker considers the risk to his loved ones around him that comes with continuing to fight off the hitmen sent by Vinny instead of running from danger?
No, not at all. He's very selfish in that sense, and it cost him a lot because of it. That's a huge character flaw that's actually really sad if you really look at it. Luckily, the movie's so just like fast paced, and it's just right. And we lightly touch on what happened to his family. We don't really go into depth about it, but there's a lot of tragedy there that we don't really touch upon. That Riker brought upon himself, and you could blame PTSD. You can blame just uh, his own hard headedness. But yeah, it was a major flaw, major character flaw that cost him everything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Yeah,
personally, as a viewer, when I was watching and his friends were asking, when is this going to stop? And he was saying, like, it's going to stop when I die. Or, like, they were talking to each other and they were like, like, it's just costing them everything. Like, but they were also speaking highly of Riker at the same time. And I was like, but their lives are at risk. And of course, like, one, like, what was victim to that in the end and was used as, sort of like bait, like, in the end and was killed. And then, of course, when like
yeah,
Jane was approached and just very dangerous situation. So, and it seemed he was on his own the whole time. anyway, no matter who he talked to, like whether he called his sister or anything like that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's a sad there's a sad part of that film that we lightly touch upon, but it's definitely dark.
Yeah, exactly. So, what do you think was the biggest lesson or message you took away from the overall story of the film, The Handler?
I think it's two things. I think it's the first thing is like you never give up and you fight to the end, and that's like kind of like the easy outlook of things of Riker and myself looking at Riker. Um, but I think the other part of that is that being hard headed and stubborn can cost you everything. So that's the lesson learned, right? Is that
Mhm.
get out of your own way, which I guess then resonates with my first film, Anabolic Life, because that character um, got in his own way and it cost him almost everything as well. So there is a similarity there in characters too.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, so we get a bit of a mysterious ending in The Handler. So, where do you think your
Mhm.
character would be now?
We have a little end credit scene. So if you stay after the credits, there's a little scene where that we shot where Riker is still alive and he is by the beach, and two people show up and they say, "Hey, we want you back." And so that's we kind of give that to you at the end if you stay after the credits that Riker's out, but is he ever truly out? So yeah, Riker would be chilling somewhere off the grid, and whether he comes back to face more demons, um, probably because you can't that war mentality never ends. So and it's funny because I met this guy. A lot of people ask me like, well, did you do your research on Marines and this and that? And I did a little, but I have this story of this guy. I was a personal trainer before I was an actor, like about 12 years ago. And one of the personal trainers was a Marine. And he came back and he was training, and you could tell he wasn't all there. PTSD was definitely a problem for him. And he told me one day, he said, I'm gonna enlist back because I can't I can't be okay with the idea that I can never kill another person.
Oh,
And I
wow.
was like, whoa,
That's crazy.
that is crazy, right? And so that's always stuck with me. And I think it kind of relates to Riker in the sense of his own PTSD, is a sense that's why all these killings, men, women, whatever, nothing phases him because this just feels at home. It feels like he's back in war anyway. So that would be the motivating factor where he couldn't just hang out by the beach too long. He'd miss it too much.
Yeah, it's funny they say that because I did like stay until the ending credits. I was like, this can't be it, and so I actually like went like a little forward to see if there was more. So I was like, first, how did he survive that like storm of bullets? Like, how did none get through the couch? That like he
Right, right.
so yeah, but that's a good answer. But also, I do see where you're coming from when like some of the people who were coming to like put the hit on him, I guess, or kill him, like were women, and like they were being aggressive and their intent was to kill him. But then when he was like about to kill them, they're like, no, please, no, like don't take our lives. And
Yeah,
so
exactly.
that was a vulnerable moment, but at the same time, I was like, you had the same intention. Like, what did you expect? Like, or
Yeah.
like the hitmen, they were like surprised when their coworkers, like friends, died, and I was like, you went on a hit. Like, what did you expect to happen? you know?
Exactly. You have a good chance of dying when you go on a hit, is what you're saying.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. Yeah, that was an indestructible couch, is what that was. And I guess Mike sells it as the belief of disbelief with that. We could have said that my friend at the beginning who like plants all the weapons everywhere. You could say that maybe he put like a flak jacket behind the pillow or something like that. It's not something we showed, but or it's just an indestructible couch, and you know.
I was like, why is this guy like he's never gonna die. Like at some points I thought like he was going to, but I was
Yeah.
like, okay, he's the main character. I guess he can't die.
Yeah, I mean that's the tough thing, right? That's like watching a movie like that, you're like, this guy can't die. I mean, he's like the lead, like where the movie would end if he dies, right? So you're never that nervous that I'm gonna get it. Maybe at the end where I fight Lucas, that huge fight that we did, and he drags me to the bathtub and starts trying to drown me.
Mhm.
Um, Maybe there was a sense where that was the ending of the film, maybe. Until I got the gun on him. But that was probably the only time where I think, as an audience member, you're like, "Ooh, this could be it."
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah,
I was like, okay, like Lucas is gonna get him at this point.
yeah, yeah. This is it, finally, right?
Yeah, but it's funny they mentioned him because you had a flashback where you were, I guess, playing basketball with him. I think it was, and he was like, "Introduce me to Vinny. Like, I need to make money, and you have a really nice house." And at first, Riker was like, "No, like he's kind of slime, and like it's not good to get involved with him." But then I was surprised when Riker was just like, "Okay, I'll introduce you to him," even though like Riker had been in the same situation and he knew what could happen. And then
Yeah,
likely Lucas came back to put a hit on him. Like, were you surprised that happened?
yeah. And I think that's the cool part of that is, like, right when I see him, I say, I guess you'll do anything for money.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and we were trying to establish with that whole thing where we kind of established he was kind of seeing my sister, and that him and I were really good friends, and that he trained me over the years, um, through the flashbacks, and that he was always a better fighter, to kind of create those stakes when he did come to kill me. That, like, Riker's out of his league with this guy. This guy is way better than he is, and how devastating that your friend who's seeing your sister, truly doesn't give a shit about you. That it's just about the money in the
Mm-hmm.
end.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that was a heartbreaking moment for me. I was like, no, that was your
you
friend.
know, I know.
Yeah,
That was his bestie.
yeah. Okay, so speaking of that, what do you personally think was the most heartbreaking thing that your character had to go through in the film?
Tough. You went through a lot of shit, huh? Like, we don't. The problem is we don't directly establish that my wife and kid were killed, right? Like, we had that scene where, like, I'm listening to her voicemail, like I have her picture on my heart. And then later on, Vinny, when he's like in questioning my friend in that little room, and he says, too bad his wife and son had to get it, or something like that. We kind of throw it away without actually telling the audience directly, like, hey, Riker's wife and son were killed because Riker couldn't get out. Because I also think if we did that too, you would start hating on Riker, like, wow, he was the cause of his family's death. So I think that is by far the most extreme, horrible thing that any person could go through, is the loss of their family, especially because of them. So that is, I think, would be it. That would be the worst thing that Riker has gone through.
That was a hard scene for me to watch too when he was in Vinny's
Yeah,
office and he was like, I'm done working for you. Like, too many bad things have happened. And of course, like, Vinny was like very hard on him because that's like his sort of way of life, is to be intense and heartless. And so it showed like that Riker had like a vulnerable side to him. Um, so, and I think that was before Vinny put the hit on him. So
yeah.
as soon as he did put the hit on him, I think Riker like let everything go, and he was like, okay, I'm just gonna fight off all these people and only worry about myself from now on.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what I wanted to, like, I don't really have many moments where I can show those kind of emotions. So in that scene, as he started talking about my son, like, I really wanted to be as stoic as possible without being dramatic, but also let it just kind of build in my face. So as an audience member, if you were truly watching it, maybe that would be enough to, like, oh shit, like, that this is a very deep scene. At least I hope it came across that way.
Yeah. Do you personally have those kinds of relationships, like kids or a significant other?
No, I mean, I have a girlfriend, but no kids. So that's again, it's just the idea that, from what I've been told, like, having a kid, there's nothing more than you'll ever love than when you see your baby being born, from what I've been told from lots and lots of people. And so that's always stuck with me in a scene where I have a child, where this person would be taking away, the only thing that keeps my heart beating, and technically killing me at the same time. And that's how I look at it.
Yeah, awesome. So you talked a little about what you think is in the bag, but do you think there's any moments in the films that indicated what is in the bag that Riker is protecting?
Nah, I don't think so. I don't think there's. It would be completely up to the audience to see what's in there. If you looked at the tragedy side of the wife and son being killed, and is it their ashes? Is it something to do with them? Or is it that last job that Vinny didn't want to, that Vinny wanted him to do, and maybe he botched it and kept all the money? Maybe that's a bag full of money that he wants back. Those are the only two main things that I think, that you could easily come up with. You could obviously think of other things too, but it's either to do with the wife and kid, or the botched job.
Yeah, my interpretation of it was that there was something valuable in there. So when you say that it was related to Riker's wife and son, then you're validating what I thought. But I did think that it was like of monetary value, or like I
Hmm.
think of other like evil villain movies where like there's a like something that the movie revolves around that everyone's trying to get the whole movie. Like if you know.
Yeah. Yeah, we don't do it like the perfect job at establishing the movie revolving around the bag, even though I'm the handler handling the bag. But also at the same time, like, it's not written anywhere. Mike never comes out and actually tells you what it is. So my idea what's in the bag could be different than what is your idea in the bag, and neither of us could be wrong, to be honest with you.
Mhm. Awesome. So you told me how you met Mike beforehand because of another film that you did. But did you also still have to go through an audition process, sort of? And if you did, then what motivated you to like land the role? Yeah.
Yeah, this we shot this during like peak 2020 COVID. So um I wasn't doing anything. Mike was just writing, and then, like I said, he got the house for a week, and then he was like, "Oh, what can I do for in a week?" And he reached out to me, and I think he reached out to a few other people, about Riker role. And he sent me like a little 20-page script and the idea what he wanted to do. And I said, "That's cool, man. Like, it's very nostalgic. I think, you know, uh, but I was like, I can't, I couldn't come across that as like I said, an Arnold or Sylvester or Jean Claude Van Damme. I'm like, A, not that great in shape right now because it is COVID. The gyms are closed. B, I have no fight training at all. So, my idea of the character is going to be a more relatable John McClane from Die Hard, type, over that indestructible, protagonist that it kind of seemed like you wanted. And I was like, but no hard feelings if you go a different way with someone that's like just jacked and like is gonna be that character for you. And I think he thought about it for a week. I think he talked to the other people, and then he ended up coming back to me, and he was like, "All right, well, your vision of this is actually what I want to do. I want that relatable human, um, going through these things instead of the indestructible human." I said, "Cool. Well, let's start training." And but yeah, there was no auditions. It was just, I was like, "Hey, you've seen my work. This is what I plan to do with it." And I'm very method in the sense where, my first movie that he saw, Anabolic Life, I went through like a 70-pound body transformation, and like grew my hair to my shoulders and did all this weird stuff for it. So he knew, uh, in a movie, that I'm going to push my character as far as I can, both in real life to match, the character on screen. And so I think he felt pretty good at knowing that I was going to put a lot of hard work into, the fighting, the character, the emotion, and making it as good as possible.
Awesome. Yeah. I think it's really significant that you were very transparent with him and you were telling him, like, I know what you're imagining for this character. I'm not going to be that. But like you told him like what you could be. And I think it's nice that he allowed you to be that. Like that's sort of something like I go through as a professional too. Like my work is mostly like writing and advertising and social media and things like that. But like I also like I'm transparent with people I work with, and I'm just like, okay, this is what I have to offer. Like I know you say required, 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 but like I can like learn and build upon like what you're asking. And so
Yeah.
yeah, I can relate with you in that way. And I think that it's amazing it worked out like that because that's really nice.
Yeah, it is. And yeah, you're right. Like going into acting and interviewing for roles is like interviewing for any job. And the more truthful you can be with your employer, uh, you know, the better it's going to be in the end. Because if I could have lied and been like, "Oh yeah, dude, I'm going to put on 70 pounds of muscle this month, and I'm going to be Sylvester Stallone, no problem," like just to get the job, and then 30 days later, and I've gained 10 pounds, like he'd be like, what happened? I'm like, oh, well, I tried, you know, so,
Oh my
so
god.
yeah, it's in, acting jobs and real life jobs, even though, I mean, all jobs in general are the same. It's about being honest on what you can bring to the table.
Yeah, and also I don't blame you for like being out of shape during the pandemic. I ate a lot of ice cream, and so I felt very guilty about that. Like come
Yeah.
December 2020, and I was like, okay, we're probably about to get back to the office like in a few months, which we did. Yeah, I can't keep
Right.
doing this.
Yeah. 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 It was a lot of, for me, it was a lot of McDonald's.
Hmm. Oh yeah, fast food was the best. I was just like, I'm gonna treat myself today, and that was today was every day.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. I felt really good though. I felt really good.
Yeah, no, me too. So, what was your favorite scene to film in The Handler?
Mm. Um, Probably one of my favorite scenes is probably that fight with Tyrone,
Mhm.
Tyrone Magnus Day. Um, it was just like we ended up having enough time to like to move the fight around, do some cool things. It was cool working with Tyrone. I've known him for a few years as well. Um, and it was just it was a lighthearted fight, where we both just tried to have a good time, and I think you could see it in that one as well. I think there's like close-ups of Tyrone choking me with kind of a smile and stuff, which is it kind of breaks character, but it made it for a light day. It was nice. Fighting Lucas, um, was an all-day event, that fight, and that was the most uh, scared day on set for me, because he's a legitimate fighter, and if I can't keep up with his speed, I could really get hurt. So every motion, every block, every punch, my brain was like firing on all cylinders, using, instead of just 10%, I was probably using 11%, out of fear, because if I just forgot and missed the block, I'm getting clocked, so fear-based fighting, that was a hell of a day as well.
Yeah, and when he was like dunking your head in the water, I'm sure you can't fake that. And just the sounds of like the reaction and your breathing, I was just like, okay, this is like totally real. Like that must
Yeah,
be hard to go through.
yeah, it's but he's cool. Like it's all professional, right? So I think one of my hands was down on his leg, and I'd grab him, and I was like, okay, I can, get me up. You know what I mean? So there was always a safety factor there, and he never was using. There's no actual force. He's just, his hand is there. I'm doing it all. Um, and there was times where I wanted to stay under longer, but he'd actually bring me up. And after the fact, I was like, dude, I had more. I could have been under there more. But we always want to be safe. So that was that.
Yeah, and then you mentioned when Tyrone like was smiling like while being very aggressive with you. Like I think that like added to the film because it
Yeah,
shows that kind of like evil like side of people, and that they can
yeah.
just like they can look like they're happy and excited when they're doing something very very dark and like horrible. So
Good point.
yeah,
Yeah, I
it's
agree.
interesting that you mentioned that.
Yeah.
So do you have a favorite memory on set of The Handler?
Um, it's it's funny because one memory doesn't really like stick out, I don't think. Um, it's because overall it was such a great just week on set. I think for me, my own kind of like lead actor dreams, it was like a almost a dream come true in the sense where I knew that the whole day revolved around my character. Where there was always I was always learning because every fight we never really rehearsed. It was like on the fly. So I was always so like woken in the sense of like aware of my surroundings and what to do, and in control of my own body so much that every day kind of felt very high for me. Um, but in the end, I think like the last day on set, we shot, the last scene behind the couch and all those things, and I think that was just cool. Everybody was kind of still there, and it was just cool to kind of like finally say goodbye to that house and to the character and everybody's hard work. We all worked our asses off, So that last day was probably pretty cool.
I know you mentioned Arnold Schwarzenegger as like sort of like your ideal body inspiration for the character, or who you think the character might have like aspired to be. But is there a certain actor or character in another film that you used like to play off of when you were acting as Riker?
Yeah, I used a little bit of John McClane, in the sense of like the hero that could get hurt. And so I wanted to be able to show when I took punches and kicks and stabs and stuff like that. I wanted to make sure that the audience believed it. And I think that's what's so cool about John McClane is that his relatability to the average man. He winces, he gets hurt, he smokes cigarettes, like blah blah blah, right? So that was part of it. I also, physicality wise, I wanted to resemble Thomas Jane in The Punisher. I remember watching him in that, and I was I was like just starting my like kind of just fitness journey in life, and his physique, he's not super shredded, but he's got a like good chest, good abs and stuff like so. That was kind of the body type I really wanted to model myself over. Did I fully get there in 30 days? Not really, but I got as close as I could to that.
So, what was your favorite moment working with Michael on set? Because I know that you said that he gave you a little bit of liberty in your character and things like that. But is there anything else that you'd like to mention?
Um, Mike's fun, man, because he loves action and death and destruction, and he loves like bloodiness and like he loves all of that stuff. Yet he's like the most gentle soul you'll ever meet in person. So it was always times where like I try to incorporate him in the fight choreography and like, oh, stand here, Mike, and like do this, and you know what I mean, and seeing him kind of just like I can't. So those are always great moments with Mike, making him a little uncomfortable, right? And just again from the beginning, like him maybe going against the grain of who Riker Dune is by choosing me. I wanted to make sure that every day on set that I was living up to what his vision was. So every day, him and I would start the day and be like, all right, what are we up to today? And what are our goals and how we want this character to look and what he's been through already. Don't forget that. And yeah, it was a great like friendship built on set to where him and I now, we talk almost every day and kind of go from there.
What was the best feedback you received after the film was released?
Um, the only feedback that ever matters to me is like my parents or my brother. It I don't know, like it's tough to listen to my parents because like in their eyes, I don't think I could do no wrong. And so I can't really trust everything they say. But they finally watched it on the TV. They like I sent them like a our offline copy a while ago that they watched on their laptop, and they thought it was good. But when they saw it on the TV for the first time, with my grandparents too, and they made a point to call me and was like, "Hey, I don't care what anyone says. Like that is an entertaining ass movie, and you did what you needed to do in it." My brother, my brother liked it. he actually thought it was almost too much action, um, which is some of the reviews are saying that it's too much action, but it's exactly what we wanted to do. We wanted to make just too much action. And But like also we had a like a premiere screening at a big theater in LA, and people coming up to me after that don't really know me, who like maybe just saw me on the carpet, or like I just shook their hand and said, hey, nice to meet you. Then coming after me after seeing the movie, and they go, oh my god, like you're, who was that? Like that's not you at all. Like that's so crazy. And so I enjoy that, because that's to me, that's when I did my job, is when I stepped out of Chris Levine and became this character, and people go, holy shit, that's a very different human being. And I was like, all right, those are the best times, those are the best moments that I hear.
Yeah, it's funny that you mentioned like after the film, because when I spoke to that director I mentioned before, he how like after one of his screenings of his films, people wanted to talk to them for like 2 hours after the film was over. And so like from my perspective, I think like feedback from the film is like most exciting part, like seeing it all done and seeing like people's like excitement and reactions, because like I appreciate when I get the chance to speak to people who are in films as well. So yeah, I totally am happy that you had those kind of moments, and I think that those are
Yeah,
very rewarding moments.
yeah. And then I get to talk to people like you that enjoy the film too. And like, honestly, like you're not specifically our target demographic, right? Like we like made a movie for like teenage dudes that like testosterone levels are like out of the roof, right? And so when someone like you, who's not a teenage dude, enjoys it too, then that's also a really great feeling.
Yeah, exactly, absolutely.
Yeah.
And my last question is about how you're opposite from Riker, and you spoke on this like a bunch also. But I guess like if you had to pick one, excuse me, if you had to pick one moment where like you're like the complete opposite of Riker, like what would it be?
I mean, almost everything to do with Riker is the opposite of me, to be honest. Like, I'm not a fighter at all. Like, I'm not a veteran. I don't have a wife or kids. I'm I'm not like I'm not really that tough. So it's kind of funny to that's a funny question to me, because like it's literally everything the opposite of me. Um, but I guess the idea that the similarities too is the sense of like the never giving up, and trying to be honorable, and protecting your family. Those are things that I can get behind, and I could say like, well, I'm similar, as I could see myself going for revenge in real life and saying fuck everything, if something happened to like my parents or my brother or something like that, and be like, all right, adios acting, it's time for revenge in real life. I feel like I could be that person and say, I'll accept jail time for revenge for this. But yeah, other than that though, that's not me. I'm a very chill, nice, sweet guy.